Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are here. It is episode three of your wedding program. I am here with my awesome co-hosts and colleagues in the wedding industry. We have Atom Ungson right
What's
here,
up, guys?
and Darlene Tan-Salazar. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Hi.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Thank you for
Thanks.
making
Thank you.
it.
No, man. Thank you for having us.
Oo nga, tagal.
Yes,
Tagal na guys. We
agree.
haven't, wala. It's just been a while, no? I hope you guys are well. Thank you for really talagang doing this, guys. Because I think we're really gonna be discussing relevant topics for tonight. How are you guys so far muna? Like, how are things been during this whole pandemic? Kumusta naman kayo?
Ladies first.
Um, Keeping busy
Mm,
because I was thinking if I don't, then I'll get used to just being sluggish all the
tama,
time.
tama,
So there. What if we get to go back to our usual grind at a certain month
tama.
that's really busy? So there. I'm trying to keep moving,
Ki-
doing a lot of projects.
gets. Yeah, yeah. That's definitely,
Yeah.
that's right. Ikaw, Atom, kumusta?
Well, with me, same. Although when the quarantine started, I think I've shared this before. I bought a PlayStation,
Nice.
and I just spent the first month,
Playing
just chilling,
games.
playing
Playing
games.
games.
Thinking that this would blow over.
Soon!
Well, soon. Well, from that time, from March 15th, I was hoping it would blow over soon.
Yes.
1, 2 months at most, but it's been 4.5 months and we're still here. So what happened was when I started to realize that this wasn't going to end anytime soon, I started being busy now. On the second month onwards, I actually haven't been as busy as I am now compared to before. So I
Mhm.
started while other people started baking,
Yeah.
while other people started making ube cheese pandesal
Mm.
and
Lahat
other
na.
lahat na. Since I don't know how to bake, I went with something different. So I started a new business, a live streaming business.
Yes, I saw that. We'll
So
we'll
that's
we'll
been
jump into
keeping us
that
busy.
later. And you
Yeah,
actually, yung maganda dun, Atom actually, yes, he has a live streaming. He started live streaming business with Bong from Trilogy, diba?
that's right. That's right.
Tama. And he'll share the experience on that as well because I think that's gonna be definitely the trend coming in. A lot of live streaming is coming in, and I think that's definitely going to be something that's going to be incorporated within the wedding industry soon. And yeah, right now, like I said, we're gonna jump into it. Just for those watching, this episode's gonna focus on Atom and Darlene sharing their experience on hosting a wedding reception recently. Ako, I haven't hosted one yet. September pa ako. September pa ako. So, when I heard that you guys recently got to experience and host an actual wedding reception, I jumped at the chance to have you guys come over. I'm so thankful that you guys made time because I think this is a very relevant discussion, not just for couples, but for hosts as well. Like, I'm sure our colleagues, our co hosts, and our co suppliers want to know through the perspective of a host. Paano ba? How was it? How was it when you guys were hosting and all of these things? So, um,
Actually, Ari,
go ano?
maybe not just for fellow MCs, but coordinators,
Yes,
photographers, anyone in the
anyone,
wedding
anyone.
industry who hasn't had the chance to have an event yet. I think this discussion will be very helpful to them.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do. So for everyone watching, if you're a supplier or a couple, if you want to ask questions, feel free to do so. We have a monitorman for chat, so we welcome questions recently. So before everything, let's start with certain topics we're gonna hit. We're gonna jump straight to it now. What is the main question that you're asked, and what do you think is the most relevant question that you were asked in regards to jumping into a wedding program? Let's start with Darlene, then we'll jump to Atom after. Darlene, what do you think is the question that most people ask, most couples?
Since I have the wedding tip sheet as well,
Yes.
I get questions from my brides as well as other
Hmm.
brides. And there's a common thread, there's a common trend. A lot of them are asking if they should still push through with having a wedding program,
Hmm.
given that they'll have an intimate wedding. They'll have
Yes.
just a few guests. Is it
Tama.
gonna be fun? Should they still push through with having a program, etc.? That's the usual question that I'm getting.
And what do you, ikaw Atom, is that something that's asked as well? How do you feel about that when couples ask that?
Yeah, I think it's no, it's a very reasonable and
Yes,
understandable concern or
of course.
question from couples because this is unprecedented. This is the first time any one of us is going through this, whether you're a supplier or a soon to wed. We've never experienced this before, so there will be questions like a program. Will it still be necessary? So couples ask me that too. But before they ask that question, there's a previous question that they ask. So, which is, should they even consider getting married this year?
Yes,
Should they even consider pushing through with their wedding?
yes,
Should they wait a little bit for MGCQ?
yes.
Should they just go ahead and postpone it to next year where the chances of the restrictions being lifted are much higher?
Tama.
So those are the initial questions that couples ask.
And you know what, and all those options are very valid for all couples, but that's why I wanted to do this episode mainly because these are for couples who are really considering and wanting to do a reception this year. Na parang, okay, gusto namin gawin to, what do we have to worry about? What do we have to do? And I think, I mean, if people want a wedding, if couples want a wedding or not, that's really up to them naman, no? It's really up to them. And I think you can go without one, with one. It's up to you what you want to do. You have that is an open option for all couples. But for those who have one, sige. For those who've had one, let's start with Atom. How was it? Then we'll go with Darlene right after. How was it when you hosted? Kumusta? What was the feeling? What were the main concerns coming into it? Share with us naman how the experience was.
There are many angles where we can approach this. No?
Sige.
I can share how it was from a supplier's point of view.
Sige.
I can share it because I was watching the guests also. So as a supplier, okay, let me start by saying that for that wedding, I wasn't actually booked to be the host.
Yes.
Okay, we were booked as Experience Live, which is
The
our
live streaming
streaming
service.
service.
Yes.
So it was a very intimate wedding. All in all, they must have had 300 plus guests.
Okay. 300 plus
300 plus guests.
Okay.
Yep. But hold your horses. I think some people might react. What 300 plus guests?
Bawal yan.
But less than 1%. Less than 1% were actually on site at the venue.
Gets.
The rest were at home or perhaps maybe in their offices or whatnot. But so it was the couple's immediate family members, their parents and their siblings. I was watching them and they were relaxed. They were
Okay,
They were
naman.
like happy for the couple. I think they were more than anything. I think they were happy to be out of the house.
I think
I think they were happy
yun, no? Feeling
Yun
ko
yun
there's
eh.
that gigil. Lalo na tayo mga Pinoy, we're such social people. Like, we love connecting, inuman, always, So, I'm sure there's that gigil factor. You felt that na parang, oy,
Yeah.
from both of you, did you feel that? Na parang, oy, they're so happy to be out.
They
I
get to
felt
dress
it.
up
And yes, they get to dress up. That's true.
beyond the usual pambahay.
So the atmosphere was actually, I was expecting it to be more gloomy.
Yeah.
I was expecting the guests to be in a more somber mood, but
Yeah.
they were actually happy. They were smiling. They were happy to be there. They were excited for the couple. So it was actually happier than I had expected.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Darlene,
And-
would you say the same thing? Sorry, Atom. Let's have.
Yeah, go ahead, go
Let's have, because I think that's a really nice thing to do. How was the overall feeling? So I would love to get Darlene's feeling as well on that. Kumusta yung feeling? With Atom, you said that they were happy. They were actually really
Yep.
excited to see each other. How was the feeling with you naman, Darlene?
I think it's similar. When the guests started arriving, I was seated by the bar, so I could see all of them. I was actually watching them come in, so I could see if the venue was applying the safety protocols.
Yun talaga eh.
Especially because we had some seniors. But the venue was able to enforce the safety protocols because they had a giveaway.
Really?
Yes, they had a cute kit with wipes, with alcohol, and things like that. So So because usual Pinoy, right? The men, they don't really want to fill out forms,
Mm.
right? So, but then they wanted the giveaway. So they had no choice. They had to fill out the form or call their wives to at least fill out two forms so that they could get the giveaway. So in that sense, we were able to see them really approaching the scanner for temperature, etc. So all those things were really good. And then when I was watching them take their seats, they were choosing tables because each table had only two seats.
Mm.
So basically, like if you're husband and wife, then it's taken that you'd be seated on the same table, right?
Yes.
But some of them actually exchanged because I guess they wanted to catch up with others.
So
Like
nag-exchange ng
Ninong and Ninang. Ninong
oh.
and Ninang weren't seated on the same table. They decided to sit on different areas so that they could talk to other people. I
Kasi
guess they've spent so much time already
together na
with
like
each other.
araw-araw na lang
Parang
tayo
okay,
magkasama.
mamaya na.
Mamaya na tayo. Kwentuhan ko si Cici. Kwentuhan ko
Yeah,
siya. That makes sense.
there.
That makes sense. Pero that's something to keep in mind for seating arrangements, no? Parang, di
Yes.
ba inisip mo, parang, since super konti lang naman ang magiging, for couples seating arrangements, mag-asawa or magkapamilya, usually they've
They
kind
sit
of
together.
they sit together, but they've seen each other for months because they've been home. So magandang seating
Oo.
arrangement. O
Wag na, I don't wanna be with you.
sinong gusto mong kakwentuhan. So parang
Yeah.
Yeah.
ang ganda, pero malaking factor 'yun, no? Parang kung napaupo mo
This
sa
one
ang ganda ng
didn't
vibe,
have
no?
a sitting arrangement.
Mm.
So they got to choose. The
Mm.
parents though, parang the guests were egging them to really, dun kayo sa harap. Sit in front kasi your parents. Pero parang I think if they had a choice, they would have also sat down elsewhere so they can talk to others. Because like I saw the dad of the bride, he moved
Mm.
away from his original seat
Okay.
so he could sit somewhere else and talk to, I think, the ninang or something. And then the other person moved again to a different seat. So basically, they were maintaining social distancing. So they were doing rigodon, like trip to Jerusalem.
Paikot-ikot,
Parang ganyan. So
paikot-ikot.
pero exchange sila. O sige, ikaw naman there, ako naman here.
Within
Ganyan.
social distancing protocol,
Yes,
of
kasi
course.
the tables were like it was like a date table but
Mm.
pretty wide. So then, like if you're seated here, you're at least I think 1.5 meters away from the one seated in front of
Which
you,
is about
something
6
like
feet,
that.
no? About pretty much 6
Yeah,
feet.
so
Because 6
it's
feet
a
yung
good
safe protocol, eh.
distance. And then there, so when the couple had to go around for photos, they were greeting, etc. And at the same time, the couple could just stand in between
Mm.
the two of them, and then they just turned to face the photographer. Tapos everything else was really fun. The games, they were really annoying each other. They like one of the ninangs even said to one of the tables, parang, "Oh, kayo na lang walang panalo." Parang
And I
ganun.
think
So,
one thing also just to touch on that, and we have our first question actually, and we're gonna
we
jump to that
do.
in a bit, which is great, from Mark Allen Cervantes.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing as well is I think it's worth highlighting for
Mm-hmm.
couples thinking that it won't be as special kasi konti
Mm-hmm.
lang yung tao, kasi tayong mga Pinoy dapat mas marami, mas masaya, 'di ba? Pero
Yes.
here's a perspective that you can also look at. Honestly, kung kasama mo lahat, like all the people that you're with, you're extremely comfortable with. Kasi syempre 20 to 30 people, ito na yung pinaka-close mong mga guests. So,
Yes.
what that does,
Sorry,
go
I
on,
have to
Atom.
jump in.
Mm,
Just to clarify, you said 20 to 30 people, no?
yeah.
I think we have to mention that Darlene's wedding kasi
Was MGCQ, yes.
was MGCQ.
And Atom's
Because
was
it was
GCQ.
it was in an area that had MGCQ.
Tama.
Sorry, but Batangas was it? Where
Yes.
was your event?
Yes.
Batangas. So because they were under MGCQ, the maximum number of guests were much higher than what's allowed in Manila.
Tama. And
But we only had I think 12 or 14 guests.
12 or 14.
So super few.
Super
Intimate pa rin.
Intimate
Super
pa rin.
intimate.
So yeah, just
Yes.
for people watching, Atom hosted a GCQ one.
Yeah.
And Darlene hosted an MGCQ one. Pag GCQ, I think it's 10 people lang yung pwede, no?
Max of 10.
Maximum 10. Pag
Yeah.
MGCQ, it's half the capacity of the venue, correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just for people wondering, that's the difference between that. But for before we touch on to, I think the first thing I want to touch on is how do you make people play safe, feel safe. But before that though, for couples thinking that hindi siya masyadong masaya, kasi konti lang.
Mm-hmm.
Darlene, Atom, how was it? Konti lang yung was that really the case? Hindi ba siya masyadong masaya? Atom, let's start with you and then we'll go with
Okay.
Darlene.
Siguro, let me start by saying that, di ba I mentioned earlier that the guests were relaxed, comfortable, and happy. And I suppose the reason why they were relaxed, comfortable, and happy was because they felt safe.
Yun.
Because
Yun
as soon as
talaga
they
yun.
entered the venue, um, I guess the safety protocols that were put in place by, well, it was the coordinator was Christine Ongte.
Yes.
So the safety protocols that Pooh, as we call her, had put in place made the guest feel safe. And if I think that's the most important
I
thing
agree.
to establish first.
I
If you,
super agree.
if you
with that.
make your guest feel safe, everything else will follow.
Tama.
Mm-hmm.
So tackle that first. I think when you're going to plan a wedding, yun ang unahin nyo. Make sure you have protocols in place. Like if you see everyone wearing masks, if you see that the buffet is properly covered with some plastic
Acrylic.
or
Yes.
acrylic cover, and if you see that the seats are properly distanced from each other, and I guess it was also a big factor that the venue was outdoor.
Super safe
So
pa yun.
super safe
pa-
talaga.
Safer yun
Safer,
kasi
safer.
hindi siya inside a contained
Oo.
environment where
Not
the
naman
Yes.
super safe, but it's much
Safer.
safer than a
Outdoor is
closed
safer than
than a
indoor.
closed environment.
Yeah.
So, yun. Now, for couples, I think we have to classify couples, no? Not all couples would be willing to have an intimate wedding, and
No.
not all couples would be willing to have a wedding during a time like this with all the limitations and restrictions.
Tama.
But to those couples who would decide to have an intimate wedding now, I suggest that once you've made that decision, be at peace with it.
Tama.
And once you're at peace with it, then you can move on and really enjoy your wedding day, which is really what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to enjoy it. You and your family are supposed to enjoy it. So that's where you begin. And once you're ready to enjoy, then you can start actually being creative and plan
Yes, excite my
plan
excitement.
your,
Everything else.
plan your program with your coordinator, with your MC, and that's where it begins.
You know what? That's
Mm-hmm.
such a good point. Kasi, and honestly, from last week's episode, si Kay and I think Benji as well and Alessi, most of the suppliers guested, mentioned the same thing na parang kung gagawin mo na lang, don't see yourself as a victim. Don't
Yeah.
see yourself na parang bakit ganito. Pag nag-decide ka na, 100% mo na like, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna do this, we're gonna get married. And at the end of the day, it's not the event, it's the fact that you're getting married. And that's gonna still
Mm-hmm.
happen naman ba. So I think that's a wonderful mindset to share.
Yeah, and
Go on,
sorry,
go on.
and to add, with regard to the program, even before the coronavirus era, naman talaga, weddings were different. Not all, I guess you could say, weddings were similar,
Yeah.
but not all weddings were alike. But even then, there are elements that, regardless of what kind of wedding you want, there are elements that you want to keep.
Yes.
You want it fun. You want your event memorable. You want it meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
and that does not change. And this pandemic does not change that.
Yes.
It changes certain specifics, but at the end of it all, ganun pa din. You want it fun. You want it memorable. And you want it
It
meaningful.
will be that. It will be
Oo.
that pa rin.
So
It
once
redounds
you're
to planning.
so once you're at peace
Yeah.
with the idea, then you can start planning and achieve those elements.
Okay.
And later on, we'll share
How
specifics
that's
on how
like.
to do that.
So, Darlene and Atom are gonna share the process of how the things were planned. But before that, I still want to touch on one important thing. Mark had this question, and we'll jump on this, Mark, in a bit. He said, hello, just Mark Alan Cervantes, who's tuned in. Hello, just want to ask, what are the parts of the program that must be included even if the reception is in an intimate setup since we want to limit the time because of the health protocol? For sure, may need tanggalin na part. Okay, Mark,
Okay.
we'll touch on that in a bit, ha?
We
But
will.
the first one kasi, the point that we're gonna be finishing is, I think, the most important, like Atom said, the most important thing that couples need to do and suppliers need to do is make everyone feel safe. When you do that, maybe staying would not even be a factor anymore because you're within safe protocols. So, Darlene, how was the process in making sure everyone felt safe? Atom touched on it a bit. I would love to share your experience. What was the
With
process?
us, upon entering, well, right before entering, there was a foot bath.
Hmm.
There was a no contact alcohol dispenser.
Hmm.
And then after entering, we had to fill out the form. And then, of course, within that form, you had to record your temperature. So we had to go in front of this no contact temperature scanner.
Hmm.
So everything was no contact. And then after finalizing everything in the form, we were given the giveaway. And actually, the giveaway even had a mask, like
Really?
two or three
Ang
masks
ganda.
and stuff like that. So if
I think that's
after
really the
eating,
feature naman talaga. Maybe
yeah, but
maybe
it's
later on
cute,
they'll personalize na masks pa.
because after eating, you can actually discard the previous mask that you used. You can change it na, right?
That's
Because
true.
they gave you a lot of masks anyway. So that one. And then in terms of the program, it was fun because everyone knew everyone.
Hmm.
So even like calling somebody to give a message, there there was teasing.
Yeah.
They were annoying each other. Oh, go, kaya mo yan. Or, ikaw muna, age before beauty. Very loud. Yung, parang they were really making sure that the person who was going to give a message would feel that he was going to give a message. Parang ganyan. And then, the bride was even telling me, Miss Dar, wag ka papayag na one of my brothers will not give a message. Kailangan both of them.
Both
So
the same
talagang,
message.
yeah, so talagang we said it. Ganyan. And what was cute, they even sang. One sang
Mm.
more than the other, but both of them sang lines from certain songs. So, like parang I think that one, you won't really have a lot of confidence to do it siguro if you have like 200 guests.
Oo,
But because yeah, you're in
lumalabas yung sayad mo or yung really your
yung
real,
kulit, 'di ba?
yung
So when
kulit
you're in front
mo.
of just a few people, tas parang sabi ko, after kasi the first message and then he sang, I said, oh, so we're calling on the second brother. I think he's gonna sing as well. Parang ganyan. So parang everyone was annoying him not to sing. Sabi niya, hindi ako yung singer. Pero sige na nga. And then he sang a few lines.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just reiterate what Atom and Darlene just said for those who are just tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two really important things. The first one is, if you're decided, and I see it relevant with Atom and Darlene, if you're decided on doing it this year na, if that's GCQ or MGCQ, if you're decided on having a wedding reception na, don't feel like a victim. Don't look at it like, still look forward to it, enjoy it. Don't think of it as something that bakit ako, why are we having to do this?
Mm-mm.
Look forward to it. Let's say, okay, we're having it now. Be excited and get creative now. You can start making this work. And even if
Mm-hmm.
just because it's during this time doesn't mean it won't be special or fun. That's really dependent on you. Kasi kung tingin mo sa sarili mo na bakit ba victim ka, wala. It's
Yeah,
gonna trickle down to
mindset.
everything.
Mindset.
It's all about the
Mm-hmm.
mindset. It's all
Mm.
about how you manage your expectations.
And
Mm-hmm.
It
by
boils down to that.
by the looks of sharing your stories so far, both couples of yours really was excited kasi ganun yung perspective nila coming into the wedding. Second is
Mm-hmm.
making everyone feel safe. I think that's, for me, 1,000,000% agree ako dyan. If you're decided to do this, if you want it to be fun and if you want people to be relaxed, you have to really put the necessary effort in research in making sure that you're making people feel safe properly. And Darlene and Atom touched on that a bit. Is there anything in that regard that
Ours
you'd want
was
to add?
extra safe.
Go.
Ours was extra safe because the giveaway of the couple also had a lot of alcohol and stuff like
Ayun.
that. Yeah, it had two types of hand sanitizers, etc. So, parang it was double na of like I think after getting home, you'd probably have those things in your bag, like for several days more, because parang we had like 3 or 4 sprays
Really?
coming out
I
of the
guess that's
venue.
worth noting, no?
Yeah.
Uh, Now you worry about that kind of alcohol, but
Mhm.
before this COVID-19 era, you were worrying about a different kind of
Different type of
alcohol.
alcohol. Yes, may
Yeah.
alcohol ba? And then ngayon may
Oh,
may isopropyl
ngayon,
Yes.
baliktad na. Wala nang alcohol ngayon na iniinom. Lahat ng alcohol ngayon is for sanitizing.
Oh,
For
That's,
sanitizing.
dati Jack
yeah.
Daniels, ngayon Green Coast na. Yun.
Oh,
Okay, guys, before we go, because I see two questions now. We have from Mark.
Yes, we have
Um,
to.
what are the parts of the program
for
that must
Kim.
be included even if the reception is an intimate setup? Even Kim Advento, it seems like a very relevant question. I would like to ask how many hours
How
usually
many
allowed for
hours?
the program for an intimate wedding reception? Okay. Before we move on from this in this topic, we'll answer this question. What do you think are the top three things? I'll ask from Atom and Darlene that will make people feel safe. Like top three lang sa inyo based on your experience. Because if you just watch, Atom hosted a GCQ and Darlene hosted an MGCQ, and they were both very successful. Top three things that would make your guests feel safe for you guys based on this experience.
Can I start? If
Yes,
I may
Atom, go ahead.
start, I guess it doesn't matter whether you're in GCQ or MGCQ. No?
Yes, yes, of course.
If guests arrive at a venue and they see everybody in masks, that's one.
Mm.
That's a point up
Ganda
already.
nun, ganda nun.
Okay, that's important. Next is the food. Of course, you're going to be when you start eating, you're going to be removing your mask,
Yes, paano
and
yun?
the type of service will also matter. If it's, let's say, for example, a buffet, and you see that the food is just out there and everyone is just grabbing the
Oh, yeah.
handle,
Don't,
putting the food themselves, and then
tama.
the next person will grab the same handle and put the food themselves. You're not going to feel comfortable that way.
Mm.
So I'm sure caterers and hotels and venues have addressed that concern. I think now the ideal or the most recommended way of service is Russian service or a plated
Yes,
dinner or a
yes.
plated meal. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then what else pa ba? And then I'll, I, ah, not for all of the guests, but perhaps for those who will be giving speeches. Obviously, you will need a microphone to deliver a message.
Yes.
Mhm.
Back in the day, you don't care. You just grab a mic and start talking. But now, it's important for sound system companies and coordinators to sanitize the microphones. And si Christine Ongte, actually has if you're watching, I'm marketing this for you now.
Nice.
She actually has a UV bag. She has a
A
UV bag,
UV bag.
and she actually sells the UV bags.
Okay yan,
Ayan
okay yan.
po ayan po if you're
Discard
watching.
talaga si Poo talaga, talaga.
Madiskarte talaga yan. Now, the UV bag, if you're wondering how it looks like, it looks like a lunch box of an astronaut.
Mm,
That's
okay.
that's how it looks like. So everything the couple will be using or holding will be put inside that UV bag or UV box. So their microphones are there. So they use it, they put it back there. If their cell phones are there, they use it, they put it back there. So and even the guests who will give messages, they also have their own UV boxes.
How
So
long? Oh, sorry, Atom. I
yeah,
just keep going, but I just wanted to ask one
yeah.
question regards that. How long do they have to keep it in the UV bag before it's properly sanitized?
That I don't know, but I'm sure it's much better than just putting the mic just out there in the open.
Tama, tama, tama. Okay, that's worth. I'll look into that. But yes, I think those are the things that you need. You keep it at a certain, the safe amount of time. I'm sure. I'm sure that was researched on the man.
Yeah.
Go on, Atom. Just to finish your point. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. So with those things in place, guests can feel
Safe.
safe and secure, and they can actually you can and that can actually make them stop thinking about the pink elephant in the room, which is
Yung
what I said,
yes,
which is most important.
the fear.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, the fear. Take care of that, and then you can start enjoying.
Okay, so just to reiterate what Atom just said, the first thing he said was, if everyone wears masks, people will feel safe. Two, how food is handled,
Serve.
how
Yeah.
food is served. Kung naka buffet style lang talaga siya, then everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, what if someone breathed over this food? Then wala na. That's true, pero these are things that we're discovering
Yeah,
now, though.
droplets.
Yeah.
Mm.
Droplets, so it has to be packed or Russian service talaga, at least. And I'd imagine kung packed siya or at least parang served in a really nice package, I'll feel safer din kasi pag, let's say, plato and sinerve, hindi mo alam kung, let's say, the waiter or something. I'm just saying, I'm talking about a paranoid person. So kung nakasara siya or nakapack siya, that would make me feel extra safe. And the third was seeing that the equipment was properly sanitized in between usage for the couples, the guest, and the suppliers. So those are the three for Atom. Darlene, what are the three for you that you feel are the most important to make guests and everyone, suppliers and couples, feel safe?
Okay, just a point regarding the UV. Because we did an episode yesterday at the wedding
Wedding
tip
cheap
sheet.
sheet, yeah.
Yes. And Dr. Imasa was saying that the UV light only sanitizes what it actually touches. So
Mm.
usually it's for flat things. If there are crevices, it doesn't, and it doesn't reach the crevice, then the droplets could still be there. That was what he was saying.
Does that work for food? I'm just curious. Does that work for food? Can you
Kinda, yeah,
UV
because
light food?
oh, I don't know with food, no, pero I know packaging pwede
Mm.
there.
So
So
flat surfaces. That makes sense, yeah.
yes, so the clean rooms daw, technically there should be no crevices. It should be like a box lang there. So in hospitals. So in that sense, so I was asking, so how do we make sure the mics are sanitized?
Sanitized.
So because what they did in our venue was a UV wand. So they were going around the mic and all that.
Mm.
Okay. So that I think it helps. Another suggestion was to use the foam on top.
Ang ganda nun. Gusto ko yan.
So after talking,
Pinaka-practical yan.
discard na. Yeah,
Tama.
out na. And then don't let the message givers hold the mic anymore. It's gonna be difficult because parang well, I don't know lang. For us siguro it's difficult because we're so used to holding the mic, diba?
Yeah.
But for the message givers, parang one suggestion is not to let them hold the mic
Ang ganda
anymore.
nun.
There
Gusto
should
ko
be a
yan.
mic stand
Mic
na lang.
stand.
Actually,
Gusto ko
ang
yan.
ganda rin ng suggestion ni Alessi right now
Yes.
on the comments. Alessi of Treehouse Story.
Yes.
Use a boom mic. A boom mic, for those who don't know, it's a
Yes, the one on
It's
top.
a it's a someone holds it.
Holds
It's
it,
on
yeah.
the air and it picks up sound. It's more sensitive
Yes.
in picking up sound.
So for example, let's say it has to be, let's say 2 inch, let's say mga 6 inches away from your mouth to get proper mic with the normal mic. A boom mic can be like super layo, like I don't
Farther
know.
pa, yeah.
And
further.
still get it.
Yes, and it'll
Okay.
still get the sound. Ang ganda nun, Alessi. That's a really good suggestion. Pero
Though
Darlene,
if it's that sensitive, it might catch even the reactions of the guests. So everything is baka medyo magulo.
baka pati langaw na duman na lang.
Ganyan.
No, but I mean it's a good suggestion.
But it's a good suggestion.
It's a good
yes.
alternative. It's a really
If
good
you have like a
option.
big venue, I think.
Oh, and
if
usually
it's a really, really big venue.
Tama.
Oh, and usually the boom mic is on top. So kahit talsik laway ka, it doesn't matter because it won't go to the mic foam.
Yeah.
Pero Darlene, so that's a really good suggestion. Thank you, Alessi, for that.
That was an aside. But for my three
Mic foam.
things, yes,
Yeah.
to make people feel safe. I think in our case, the giveaways were good because everything was there already. Like if they forgot to bring an extra mask, it was there. If they forgot to bring alcohol, it was there. Tissue, wipes, everything was there. So that's one. Second, there was enough distance between lang because we had two people, diba, per
Yes.
table. So between the guests, there was enough distance, and between tables also, there was enough distance. So parang they're really like you really felt the social distancing. So that's why I could hear their conversations because they had to speak loudly to be heard by the other people. But it was fine because they all knew each other anyway. So they were just jumping into the conversation. That one. And then I think the other thing was there really was no reason to stand much because the food was served. The food was served, number one. During the game, I would ask them to give their answers and I would be a bit far from them. And then after that, I'd just hand over the prize. So
So parang
They really didn't have to stand much
parang you're saying
anymore.
that if people maintaining safe proximity within each other make people feel safe.
Yes, parang there's
Ganda
distance
yun.
eh. So it's a good, I think it's a good practice also. Even
Well,
when I gave the prices, parang super stressful
actually,
yung
more than
process.
anything, it not just to make them feel comfortable, it's actually required by law.
Yes, it's
Yes,
each other, yeah.
social
Yun
distancing.
din.
No,
So
pero
Yeah,
it's
and
there's
then
also
something that you
that.
can forget, 'di ba? Na parang
yes,
you have
kasi
to keep
kilala mo eh.
you have to keep that in mind na parang hey
Oo.
guys, make sure kasi let's say may papalapit na be like whoa 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 whoa, parang bad vibes na 'yon. Parang nakakasira
Yeah.
ng good vibes 'yon. So, but these are not things we used to think about before. That's why I think Darlene, that's a great thing that you pointed it out now. It has to be a different mindset coming into weddings. Maintain safe proximity. So, hindi pwedeng yung usual na galawan dati. It has to be na parang,
Mm-mm.
uy, talagang patintero moments na, hindi naman patintero, pero malayo, safe proximity within each other. Darlene, anything you want to add to that? I just thought that is really worth hammering to those points.
My doctor bride, actually both of them are doctors, the bride
Hmm.
and the groom. Because usually I know you guys experience this at the end of the reception. In my case, my brides would usually hug me at the end to say
Mm.
thank you,
Nga,
etc. Of
oo.
course, this one didn't happen, but I
That's so
felt
sad.
that yeah, but I felt that hug in the sorry, I felt that hug in a sense because the bride had so many things to say. Like she was reliving the moments that we had. We were making cuento. She was even telling me about her rounds, etc. So parang in a way that was the hug because we had a long final cuento at the end. Although we maintained space between each other, etc. And
What
we
was that
even had a
space?
selfie. So I think parang 2 paces and I'm not naman very short. So yeah, but pretty far.
Pretty far naman,
And
oh.
then we had the selfie na medyo far din kasi nandun sila and then I was here in front. Ganyan. And I didn't even remove my mask. Actually, that's one other thing. I asked the guests if they wanted me to remove my mask. Okay, because the couple came down. I was so surprised that they came down. We didn't have a coordinator. Eh. So
Mm-mm.
I was so surprised. So I told them, wait, I'm going to give you a grand entrance. Okay. So I was still wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I guess at that point, I felt like it was part of my face. So
Yes.
when I started the program, I had not removed it yet.
But it's great that
So
you didn't
but it
though.
was there, right? So
It's
it was
great that
there.
you
And
didn't.
then
Oh.
and then the guests, because at that point I was thinking I should remove it since I'm the one in front, diba?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty far naman from them. But I asked them because I felt it would be awkward if I'd suddenly remove it
Yeah, because they
right
might feel
then
not
and
safe.
there.
Yeah.
Yes. So I asked them if they wanted me to remove it. And then they said no need because they could hear me clearly. And the one who said it was a senior citizen at the end, like she was third row. So since she was pretty far and she said she could hear me clearly, sabi ko,
Yes.
okay, okay na. I'll just keep it on na the whole time.
Dar, may I ask what kind of mask you were wearing?
Surgical.
Surgical, the usual one, the parang the
The
Yes.
white and blue
light,
one.
the light blue one.
Yes. Yes.
Here's an interesting question: hosting with a mask on.
Mhm.
For me, let's for our co-host in the industry. And Mark, Kim, don't think we forgot about your question.
Yeah,
We're gonna
we'll
touch
tackle
on
that later.
We'll tackle that.
Yes.
It's just there's so many important points na we naturally come into that it's worth highlighting. Ako, Darlene, for me, honestly, so far, I'm so happy you hosted with a mask. Kasi
Okay.
it's really safer for everyone, including yourself and of course the guests, if you wore a mask.
Yes.
So, what's your overall take on hosting with a mask? Let's start with Ato.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I still have mixed feelings about hosting with the mask on.
Yes.
Of course, I'm very particular with sound.
Yes, Atom. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Most of the people I work with, and
No,
even if,
for good reason. Atom's the reason I'm more ano with dati hindi eh. Pero Atom explained it and then I experienced I'm like tama si Atom. You have
it's very
you
important
have to
because
be
our
heard.
job is to talk and to be understood
Yes.
and to be heard, and we're shortchanging our couples if we don't achieve
Sound
that.
properly. I
If
agree.
we don't sound properly,
agree.
if we're not understood. So here's the thing. Of course, we would like to wear a nicer mask, but with the nicer masks, we
Covered.
will not be understood even more.
Yes.
So we have to compromise. And for me, my compromise is this. While you're hosting, wear those thinner surgical masks. At least you will be understood better.
Tama.
But if I were to be given the choice, I would rather not wear a mask
Yes.
because it really affects the sound. It really makes your sound. It really makes you sound muffled.
Yes.
But if you can
Achieve good sound.
lessen, yeah, if you can achieve good sound and lessen the muffled effect of the sound by using a thinner mask, that's a good compromise. Now, in my case, during the last wedding I hosted, again, I didn't. Okay, I ended up hosting it because I'm a host.
Yes, you were
But
there.
yeah, because I was already there.
Host mo na.
But host ko na rin. So I was hosting slash doing voiceovers. But really, my job there was to host the online program which we offered. So at the beginning, I started doing voiceovers with my mask. I really sounded muffled. So I went far
Far.
since it was just a voiceover at the beginning. I went far, far away from the guests, took off my mask, and since I have my own microphone, I'm comfortable just using my own mic. Yun. So I felt comfortable doing a voiceover even without a mask.
Kasi
But-
malayo ka naman. You were in a safe distance.
Yes, and again,
And I think we have
open
to
air.
note there, yeah, open air.
Open air.
Open
But
air
if
yun.
it was a ballroom, I
No.
probably wouldn't have
Uh-uh.
removed
Not
my
worth it
mask.
kasi.
Yeah.
Kasi
Oo eh.
for those watching kasi, open air is it's a lot safer than enclosed space because medyo yung nagso-circulate kasing air. So we're basically sharing air. Open air,
Yeah.
the risk is significantly lower. And how low, we don't know. Actually, that's something worth looking into. Which
Yeah.
brings us to a topic that I think is worth exploring in the future. Doing proper due diligence and research of what is safe and what is not, no? Parang the risk talaga when wearing mask or not. But in Atom's case, it was because he was outdoors and when he was speaking, malayo siya from the guest. Kasi,
Yeah.
so that was a factor as well. And then after you spoke, you would put on your mask back on. So pag
Yeah.
salita, then do it again.
Yeah, but then when the program started, when the actual program started, again, since it was open air, I suppose the my distance from the guests were definitely more than 6 feet. Probably 4 times that.
4 times 6 feet.
Four
So
times.
malayong malayo ka
medyo
talaga.
malayo talaga yung guests from where I was hosting from. So I took off my mask. I took off my mask again
And
because
everyone else was wearing
but
masks.
everyone else was wearing a mask. That's also why I felt more comfortable removing my mask.
And it was open air.
And it was open air.
Kung closed space, would you have done it?
Matigas ulo ko eh. So I probably would still have removed my mask.
Really? Pero not worth it,
But,
Atom, ha? Sinasabi
not
ko
worth
sa'yo.
it, I know.
Like, kasi the risk
know.
kasi within a closed space, ito lang, this is based on doctor friends that's told me this, okay, guys? If you're wearing a mask, the chances of, wait, this was messaged to me, ito ha. I'll just gonna...
There's like a photo, di ba?
Yes,
There's like an illustration.
This was an illustration that was sent to me by Nonon and Ishi. They were a couple I hosted for. One is a frontliner. They're both doctors as well. And these are the risk factors with masks and no masks. And let me just share that with you guys really, really quickly. I remember sending this to you. Ito here. If you have COVID and you're wearing a mask, and you're not wearing a mask, and the other person is wearing a mask. Let's say I was hosting, or let's say we were hosting, and everyone else was wearing a mask. The possibility for transmission, ayan siya, sorry ha, is 70%. 70%. So there's a 7 in 10 chance that you can transmit COVID if you're
To
not
the other
wearing a
person.
mask and they are wearing a mask, because you're not wearing a mask. If you are wearing a mask and let's say you have COVID, you're wearing a mask, and the other person is not wearing a mask, the transmission is only 5%. So pag ikaw nakamask ka pero may COVID ka and you're wearing a mask, and the other person's not wearing a mask, 5%. That's why, Atom, you were like really, really safe in that situation because everyone was wearing a mask. But if both of you are wearing masks, regardless if you have both COVID or not, regardless if you have COVID or not, the possibility of transmission is 1.5%. So this is according to something that was just shared to me by some doctor friends as well. So I think indoors, isipin mo 70% if you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
mask. If you're speaking to people with masks. So I think right now it's really just trying to be aware of these things. And at least
Oh,
Atom, you were in a safe situation talaga. So you were fine.
yeah. May I add something pala?
Mm.
Um, I saw like the reverend who facilitated the ceremony was wearing a face shield.
Mm.
And if I'm not mistaken, there are MCs who host with a face shield on
Yes.
also. So you have a mask on and a face shield as well. Um, as a suggestion, please, when you do that, put the mic under.
Mm.
Don't put it
Wala.
because wala eh. Because the reverend sounded so muffled because he
Speaking like
put the
that.
mic there in front
Dapat na,
and may
that's a
cover
good
it.
point, Atom.
There's
Okay.
a plastic cover it. So if the cover's there, the mic's here, you will be understood more clearly.
Very,
So
very
as
true.
a bit of as a tip to those to other
That's a
MCs
great.
who will be doing that.
And I think something worth, let's say, tackling in the future, if we can find equipment that can help you sound good in the future, na maski may mask ka, worth researching yan, no?
Looking into.
So that's worth looking into in the future. So Atom shared his experience with the mask, and thank you, Atom, for that. I think those is a very balanced perspective. Um, Darlene, ikaw, hosting with a mask, how do you feel about it?
It was an air-conditioned venue.
Yun.
So at the very beginning, I thought I should have removed it
Mm.
because I'm the host and everyone else was wearing masks anyway. But since I didn't, I forgot to remove it when I started, and they said that it was okay that I didn't remove it. I didn't remove it at all na until the very end.
Yes.
And then it's also worth noting that the whole time that I was emceeing, I also had to do other tasks.
Hmm.
So there was even a point that I was the one who played the SDE from the
Really?
laptop.
You were doing
Yes.
a bunch of things.
Yes. So and then I was also the one playing the music from that laptop for our Name That Soon game.
Mm.
And then I was the one handing over prizes. So it was really, really important that I was wearing a mask.
Yes.
Okay, and then yesterday during the discussion, because Doc Mars was saying wear a face shield pa rin. So you have double protection. You have a
Mm.
mask and you have a face shield. But I was arguing. I said, Doc, parang it's so hard because I might not be heard properly if
An-
there's a face
okay,
shield.
anong sabi nila?
Okay. And then
Anong sabi
parang
ni Doc?
kulitan, and then in the end parang I said, because he said his concern is what if the droplets go to your eyes?
Tama.
And then I said, Doc, what if goggles? Ganyan. And then he said, okay, if you're comfortable naman, you can read whatever it is you have in front of you wearing goggles. The maybe that's another option for you, just to wear goggles
Mm.
and your mask. Because I'm thinking it would still be I would still be better understood if I'm just wearing a surgical mask and the goggles than if I were to wear a face
Kasi
shield.
walang barrier. At least protected yung mata mo. And then, at least,
Yes. Pero this one is flimsy enough, 'di ba? To get the sound through. Because I asked people and then they said that they could hear me properly. And I think they did because they were laughing at the right
they
the
were
right
wearing at the right...
points.
So, it wasn't much
They
of an
were
issue.
answering, yeah, they were answering at the right points, etc.
That's
There.
great. That's great.
Maybe we can tackle like what are the options that we have available to us ba when it comes to microphones?
Sabi nga ngayon, Kevin De La
In-
Cruz, how about using a tiny wireless like lapel mics? Lapel mics is definitely
Mm-hmm.
an option if it can transmit as well.
Yes, but where? But again, I agree that's a good option. But where will you pin it? It's usually here or in the collar. But again, you have a mask on.
Shoot mo sa loob ng mask.
So I already had an idea when we were talking yesterday, 2 days ago.
Yes.
If you can put the lapel mic inside the mask.
Inside the
Pero
mask.
these are things you're gonna think about talaga. Oo.
Yeah.
Paano yung
Pero
Kasi
you
discussion?
syempre-
guys pwede. In
Bec-
our case, di ba, we're wearing gowns. So, ito talaga, may wire ka talaga nakaganyan dyan.
Sa likod.
Unlike you guys, you have
A
collar,
or
collar,
lapel.
etc.
Yeah.
Sa likod. Pero and I think you can wear an N95 kung ganon. Kasi the N95 has a gap.
My space. Yeah,
May
there's a
space.
gap.
So a lapel would work na papasok kasi may space, hindi siya magra-rub against the it's not gonna rub against the surgical mask. So That could be worth
But
looking into.
with the N95 daw, there's like parang there's also protocol that you shouldn't be moving really fast. Like parang photogs ganyan,
Mm.
photogs, videographers. They should be pacing themselves if they're wearing N95s because otherwise they'll be out of breath. And
Ganun
then
ba
yung
yun?
shortness of breath, di ba, parang it's interpreted as a symptom of COVID.
Ah.
So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's hard to breathe also. So, yon, parang if you're wearing an N95, kailangan you're not like moving really, really fast so that you
Mm.
won't end up with shortness of breath. That's
So
what was said yesterday.
slow mo dapat.
Yeah.
Pero as we host, you have
Hindi
to give
ka,
so much
eh,
energy then
pag
when
when
you
you're
Oo.
hosting, di ba, you're moving around, ganyan,
How do you
you're walking
suppress
kahit
that
pa.
energy?
you're,
Yeah. So I think the surgical mask is still better, especially for hosts who move, diba? Or if like you have to do other things, you have to multitask.
and like you said, Darlene, and like based on what I've heard as well, surgical masks offer almost the same protection as an N95. Like very
No, it's N88 if I'm not mistaken.
N88, N88, pareho.
The surgical masks I think are if N95 mask protect you from 95%
Yeah.
of stuff. Surgical masks 88%. I think,
Okay,
if
so
I'm not
there's like
mistaken.
there's about a 7% difference in protection. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's something worth noting about. So for you, Darlene, it's definitely hosting with a mask within an indoor space.
Yes, I think, and even if it's outdoor, I think it's just right because you don't know when, like, you give, let's say you're going to call for somebody to give a message. You
Yeah.
don't know if that person will walk right in front of you,
Tama, you have to be protected,
diba?
and
So
it
it's the
only
same
takes
thing
moments to get
to
infected,
get
diba?
it.
Pero
Yes.
honestly,
So
guys, if we're thinking
better
about
pa.
it,
Mm-mm.
honestly, if you look at the risk, it's not worth not wearing a mask. It's not worth
Exactly.
it. Buhay to eh. Buhay ng iba, buhay mo, buhay ng mahal mo sa buhay. For now, until it's absolutely safe to not wear a mask anymore, wear a mask when you host.
Yeah, I agree because
It's just not
remember
worth it.
you go home to your family
That's it.
and
It's not worth it.
yeah.
In my
Go on.
case,
Mm-mm.
earlier, IE of Invitado event, she posted that she was somewhere and then she saw these colored masks.
Mm.
And then I know usually couples request for us, at least for the female hosts, to wear pastel colors, etc. And then there was a really cute peach mask. So I said, IE,
Bilhin mo ako niyan.
pabilin niyo.
Pang-match na sa outfit, di ba?
Oo,
So, guys,
match
for
na
any
yan.
wedding suppliers out there, ha, colored masks will be the new hot trend. I'm telling you
Parang
now.
pwede, di ba?
Pang-match sa
Yun.
outfit, new
Sa
trend yan,
color.
for
But
sure.
please wag purely cloth
Yes, it has to
masks
be
because
proper material.
those do not work.
Tama, it has to be proper material. You're right about that. You shared that yesterday, no, Ato, na parang
Yeah.
kung cloth lang, it doesn't offer the same protection as a surgical mask.
Yes.
Oh, kung mag-cloth mask ka rin lang, huwag ka na lang mag-mask.
Yeah.
Ganun din.
Oh,
It's the same.
I got a charcoal colored mask
Oh, ganda yun.
for the mga charcoal
pang
suits.
gray suit, di ba? Ang daming ganyan.
Yeah.
Eto, okay, so guys, let's answer this question because I think we've we've hit on I think that topic very well. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Does a wedding program need to be shorter because it's an intimate wedding and because you want people to not be to feel a safe parang syempre it's a risky situation for most for these cases. Do you have to keep it shorter to risk infection to lower the risk of infection, and because it's an intimate wedding, was it shorter for you? Let's start with Darlene, then we'll jump to Atom.
In our case, when we were planning, they also wanted it a bit short.
Mm.
They're both doctors, eh. But not just because of the safety and all, but because of their children also. Because their children can't join our program. They weren't there during the ceremony, etc. So also that one. So aside from safety, their children. In the way we did the program, we had I think around an hour and a half running time, including the serving of food, etc.
That's not bad.
And then since there was no coordinator, I spoke with the photo and video team leader already ahead of time. So I could inform him that this was the time allotment and these are the contents of the program. Can you still do the SDE?
Did you?
Given this time frame.
Were you able?
Yes, and then
Are you
I
serious?
reminded him, we have very few guests, etc. And then he said, okay lang ma'am, we'll do it.
Naka-SDE
Because
kayo?
Yes. So we had an
Wow.
SDE,
In
and
one
then so I
hour and a
went to
half.
them. Yes, I went to them. At the end, like I don't usually eat during receptions,
Mm.
but they brought me a plated meal, etc. So I ate some of it, and then I was thinking some of the guests were standing up already, so they were done eating. I think some of them went out to smoke or whatever. So I stood up. I went to the photo and video team to ask them how many minutes pa, so I know how
Mm.
to pace myself, diba? But it was rendering.
It was rendering
So,
na.
yes. So, I think they prepared with that mindset that, we're going to have a very short period of time, but we need to finish this because we promised the couple that we could do an SDE. And what's great about that, that was Photo Farm, no? They were even able to give the couple a surprise on-site photo slideshow.
Are you
So the couple,
serious?
yeah, they got really, really surprised na, dalawa. Parang
How
ganyan.
was the end product?
Both were beautiful. I got to see their children because there were a few snaps of the kids. I got to see that she was wearing her Cecilia Abad gown at the church because she was wearing something very simple during the reception. Um, the both were very touching. They weren't very long. Like, cause
That was
sometimes,
the
diba, parang
difference. Yeah, of course.
previous the SDEs, the on-site photo slideshows would be really long.
Two
Minsan
songs,
two,
three
three
songs.
songs,
Yes,
diba?
tama.
Parang viewer fatigue na. This one, um, it was complete, but it wasn't very, very long. So
One
I
song.
think it was one song each, yes.
Pero solid pa rin yun. One
Pero
song
yeah,
is
but we didn't feel that it was rushed or anything. It was beautiful, and then even saw some people shed tears over it.
ang ganda.
So yeah,
That's so nice to
and what's nice
know.
about it when you watch it, parang you don't super think of COVID.
Hmm.
The way it was done, you don't super think of COVID. So 10, 20, 30 years from now, when you watch it again, you're not going to see COVID. You're going to see yourself having fun. You're going to see
Yeah.
yourself shedding tears of joy, etc.
Oh, how nice. You know what? And also, I think even if it's, let's say, you see yourself during COVID, it's still, I think, either way, I think it's beautiful that you still
Yeah.
managed to celebrate, even if you see that you were going through COVID. Alessio of Treehouse just had that SDE then recently. There was a next day
Hmm.
edit. Oh my God.
Next day, yeah.
Everyone was wearing, ano, iyak na iyak ako dun then. It's beautiful.
Actually, I have something to say about that. No, that's suppliers are expected to be creative, but family members can be creative too. Like that wedding, that particular wedding of Treehouse that they showed.
Yeah.
Because I know the couple and I know some of their family members. You know what they did? The family members, since they're not allowed inside the church,
Yeah.
they surprised the couple outside. They
They
drove
drove
by. They
by.
drove by the
Umiyak ako
couple's bridal
doon.
car. Para ako very,
Umiyak ako doon. Grabe.
pareho tayo.
That was nice.
That was very touching. That was very nice. And uh, I'm sure the couple appreciated it. It
Oh my,
made the
they
event
cried. I
even
saw
more
it.
special. Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you not? How can you not cry?
And
You see
What was
all
the
of
church? You remember which church it was?
shucks. I'm supposed to know that. I think Manila Cathedral.
Oy, hard yun ah. Hard to do the
No,
drive-by there.
tama ba? Manila Cathedral. I don't remember. I think
If
it was
it's
Manila Cathedral.
cathedral, that's additional effort, di ba?
Yeah.
Yeah, additional effort talaga.
pero that just reinforces what we were discussing earlier. If you're gonna do it na rin, focus on the positives.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Really don't see yourself as a victim. And it leads to moments like that. And I can see that 10, 20, 30 years from now, if the couple watch that SDE, that's a beautiful memory.
Yeah, yeah.
Na parang,
So much
nakamaskara
love from
lahat.
people.
Even at the darkest and most challenging times, love really just shone through. And that's a beautiful memory, guys. Really do not think that it won't be regardless. I mean, you can shoot it whichever way you want, but I think light light is brighter when at the darkest of times, and I'm sure that was one wonderful example of it.
Yeah, Manila Cathedral.
Alessi
nga.
answered.
Yeah,
Alessi
Alessi
just
was said it
confirmed
was Manila Cathedral. Okay, so coming from that, Darlene just shared
Yeah,
1
you
hour.
just raised your leg, so now we know you're wearing shorts.
I'm so sorry talaga. I'm so sorry. Ano na ba? Atom, naku, nag-shorts na tayo sa bride and breakfast stream. Naku, booking na tayo, Atom.
Booking na tayo.
Oo, hindi na tayo. Maganda si Darlene, naka-pajamas pala, no?
Why dress ito
I
dress?
know, I know, I know, I know. So, okay, Darlene mentioned that it was an hour and a half, pero naka-SDE pa rin sila. It was an hour and a
Yes.
half program. Yes, it was
Parang a
shorter.
little shorter pa nga ata eh.
Really?
Now.
So,
Yeah.
before we move on to Atom's sharing of his program and how it was, so just to reiterate for everyone, Darlene had an MGCQ wedding. It was about an hour and a half or maybe less yung program ni Darlene. There was on-site photo and on-site video, and it was still but it was around like one song lang each, no, not the usual two songs or three songs, like
Yeah.
a lot
Not
shorter,
terribly lengthy. Yes.
not lengthy na sobra. So, Darlene, can you share us with us the other parts of your program na nag-ano din doon? So, it was on-site photo, on-site video. What were the parts
Mhm.
that were part of it, and what were the parts that were not part of it compared to usual wedding programs?
In our case, we still had the introduction of the parents, the principal sponsors. Although, of course, you just have a
Okay.
couple, and then the father and the parents of the groom.
Mm-mm.
Um, and then we had, of course, the grand entrance, the first dance, the cake
Mm.
cutting, the toast. We also had the messages of the siblings. So we had four siblings. We also had the messages of the parents because they didn't have their best man made of honor titles, diba? Because they
Yes.
didn't really have an entourage anymore. So we made the siblings give messages.
Okay.
We still had games.
Okay. How many?
Name that tune we did, and then we had a trivia question, and the price was really nice because the hotel gave an overnight stay
Ang ganda.
there. Yes. So the winner of that one was the butt of the Kanshawan earlier. Na, oh, wala kang prize.
Ay. Okay,
So
okay.
that was a good thing, di ba? Sila yung nanalo nun. And then, of course, we didn't have the garter ceremony, things that would violate social distancing. We
Tama.
didn't have those anymore.
Tama, tama.
There.
So, just to reiterate, intro of parents, cake cutting, message of siblings, message of the
The
parents,
parents, yeah.
games, which was named that tune in trivia, SDE photo and video.
Yes.
Walang dances with the parents,
They chose not to have it anymore.
just to keep social distancing moments. Ano?
Yes.
Ayun. Ang ganda. Okay, thank you so much, Darlene. That's for sharing that. So, just for people who are just watching now, yung program ni Darlene that lasted about 1.5 hours, you had the intro of parents, the cake cutting was there, message of the siblings, message of the parents, since mostly entourage were not present, so it was just really parents and
The
siblings.
siblings.
Games, name that tune, and trivia games, which is very social, say a social distance friendly games, which is great. And SDE photo, SDE video, it was still beautiful. So overall, one and a half. And did it feel rushed or busog yung program? How was it?
It didn't feel rushed because the food was served eh.
Mm.
So it wasn't like they could just pile everything on their plate and then wolf down everything, diba?
Yes.
And then done na. So the guests, I noticed them, they were eating pretty leisurely
Mm.
while the food was being served. Of course, the waiters were in full battle gear, talagang full battle gear sila while serving. But aside from that, I noticed that they were eating, like they weren't wolfing down their food.
Parang
Ganyan.
konti-konti
Parang they
lang.
were eating, and then they were reacting to each other, ganyan. Kasi there was enough space naman eh, di ba?
So conscious.
Although there wasn't a lot of conversation during the meal time, but there were a lot of viands. So I think they took time to really taste and savor each of the viands. Ang dami eh.
Mm.
Yun.
Which is a nice, at least, and also maybe it was also siguro you don't want to speak and you don't want to maintain
And
remove your
eat
mask so
and-
much, so parang leisurely talaga yung pag-eat mo. I guess that's a factor
Yes.
then. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Parang, and they enjoyed it kasi sobrang daming options.
Mm.
Yun.
Which
Kasi
you
even
can-
me, di ba, I was served plated.
Yeah.
There were so many things on my plate.
That you can just kind of eat na parang, oy,
Oo,
and madaling
parang,
kainin.
this one's nice. This one's ganyan.
Madaling kainin na parang,
Yes.
that's good.
What were the utensils that they used there?
I think we still had the usual metal,
The usual metal.
if I remember it correctly.
Kasi if I'm not mistaken,
Better if
some
disposable eh.
I think some catering companies and hotels are planning to use disposable utensils. Although sana wag yung plastic, at least the wooden kind man lang sana.
Oh, kasi it's
At least it's
environmental
and
friendly.
it's a hazard, for the
it looks
environment.
nicer.
True. That's
But I
true.
think with metal, if they just sterilize it very well,
It's fine.
baka it works.
It's fine.
Yeah, but then there's that from a guest's point
Parang
of
did
view.
you
Sun
sterilize
Did you?
it?
Oo.
So you have to address that. You have to give them that peace of mind.
Yes.
Very, very nice. Before we touch on to Atom sharing of his program,
Yeah.
Darlene, was there picture taken? Atom and Darlene.
Yes.
There was picture taking.
Yes. In our case, no one had to move because, well, the couple had to move from table to table, but they would just take that space in between the two, because we had guests on either side of the tables, right? How do I do this there?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the guests were like that. The couple were here. The couple had to place themselves in the middle.
So it was the couple that was moving and not the guest going to the
Yes,
couple.
yes. And the couple would just stay at the center.
That's great. Benji Tionko, actually, who was a guest last week, said that would be the safest way to do it. Kasi pag guests walking you're walking around the venue, you might risk proximity, you might get too close to people heading into the couple since more people are moving. But if just the couple moves to each table that already has good social distancing parameters, mas safe talaga yun. So yun,
Yes.
I hope that answers your question, Rika. Atom, how was your program, man? So Darlene shared hers. How was yours?
Okay. I suppose I'd like to answer both questions. No, I mean from Mark Allen and from Kim.
Yes. What
So
does it have
and also your question. So the question was program length. How
Yes.
long should the program be?
Yeah.
There's no definite and specific answer. I can't say 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
But what I can say is it's important for us to keep the program tight.
Yes.
The less time the guests spend at the venue, the less exposed they are.
Agreed.
So, having said that, though, it doesn't mean we have to rush things. It's
Yes.
just that we have to keep tight. Hindi na pwede yung before na everyone's just taking their time.
Yes.
The photo and video team are taking so much time with the post-up shoot.
Yes.
The couple spends time practicing and all that, because all of those things are like practicing for their first dance. That can be done ahead of time. Just to keep the program flowing part by part continuously. No? So that's my answer to that. How many hours? We can't say how many hours, but keep it tight.
Keep it
Now, with regard to the program, okay. As I mentioned earlier, regardless of when or what kind of wedding you would want, there are elements that need to be addressed. You want it fun, you want it meaningful, you want it memorable. So you can go through each of the usual parts of a wedding, and then the couples will then have to decide which one they are willing to compromise,
Yes.
or which ones they're willing to do without. Like in my case, for example, a first dance. Dar, did your couple
Yes.
have a first dance? My
Yes.
couple didn't have a first dance anymore. So that it's not right or wrong. It's just what they prefer.
It's what they preferred. Yes.
It's what they prefer. So you just have to figure out which parts you want to keep, which parts you can do without, and the best way for you to get to the final program is to discuss this with your coordinator and with your MC, because they are in the best. Because us MCs and the coordinators, we are in the best position to make recommendations to the couple
As early as possible, then.
as
diba?
early as possible.
Coordinate.
tell
What
them.
was your game, Atom?
Oo. Now, what was my game? Okay, so ito pa yan. The program that we prepared for the guests, we had two programs. We combined a physical program and an online program.
Aganda.
Oo. So I'm not sure if anyone has done it, but it was definitely my first time to do it. So we were broadcasting it. We prepared an online program for them. And yun na nga, since andun ako, since MC din naman ako, I introduced na rin speakers. I guided the guests as to what to do next. But with the online program, we had guests give, we had online guests give messages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there were two kinds of guests. No? There were guests watching on Facebook,
Okay.
and there were guests watching on Zoom.
Okay.
So it was actually nice, guys, because we would show the faces and the reactions of the guests who were on Zoom.
Ang
And you know
ganda.
what? We could see people crying, and they were dressed up. They were dressed up. Meron nakabarong, meron nakasuit.
Mm-hmm.
They were drinking with the guests. Some were eating popcorn.
Ang
So
ganda.
some were toasting with a couple. They had soju. May isa pa, nagpatawa siya. He was toasting with Green Cross alcohol.
Tumawa sila doon. Pero
It was
Atom,
funny.
how did you make the people watching visible? You had monitors in different places of the ano.
Yeah, well, since there were only a handful of guests, we didn't need a big LED wall
TV lang.
or projector.
Flat
TV lang.
screen.
It was a
Flat screen.
65-inch TV.
TV.
So
And
that
then
was
yun ang
the-
monitor mo for people to see people's reactions.
Yeah. The actual live was being broadcasted to people, and we were showing it on site.
Ang
So
ganda.
guests could actually see what was happening, and they could see themselves, they could see the couple, and once in a while, we would flash photos of guests who were at home.
Ang
Nakakatuwa.
ganda. And that's a new dynamic na, no? Na parang for the next maybe year or maybe even more. Yan ang magiging how, and I think we're gonna get more creative, suppliers, hosts, coordinators, everyone. Paano ba natin gagawing mas masaya to? Paano ba natin ma-incorporate with the usual things in a wedding?
Yes.
Yung pagka-online guest. And again,
Exactly.
Atom has a service, Experience Live, that he does where he makes this possible, where couples can have their guests, even if they cannot make it, be there. And what was the impact, Atom? Kumusta yung impact? What was the feedback with that sort of setup?
You know what? Right after the program ended, that was our first event, our first wedding as Experience Live. So we were, we knew what we were doing. I mean, we were ready, we were prepared, but of course, we were a little bit. We were keeping our fingers crossed that
First time
nothing
ka ba?
would go
Ka ba
wrong.
yan? Oh,
First
first
time,
time yan.
suma.
Oh, syempre, of course.
Kabado kami. Actually, kami ni Bong, sorry, we were wearing masks, but underneath the masks, when the program ended, our smiles were up to here. Parang, bro, we did it.
Super
and
happy.
And Jana, our online director who was at our home base, was also very happy. So anyway, we were very happy and excited that everything went well. So
It was successful. It was
successful.
And couples were happy.
And the couple and the guests were happy.
Ang ganda.
Their parents were happy because it's something new.
Tama.
So what was the effect?
To the program.
With the program, no, we actually had a game. We had a trivia game while the couple was having photos with their guests, we were having an online game. It was an online trivia game. So we would flash questions on the screen, and I would read out the questions, and they would send, and the online guests would send their answers on the comment boxes, on the comment section.
Okay, tama,
Done.
tama.
And first one to send the correct answer gets a prize.
Ang ganda.
So at least our objective is to make it as interactive as possible. And the reason why this was actually a recommendation from the couple to show the faces of the Zoom guests on screen. Para it was interactive both ways.
And I think that's super important. I agree with that. I remember talking about this a month ago. I said the most optimal setup is seeing people's reactions then. Not just the online guests seeing the couple. It's also the guest on the wedding seeing, like, look at the NBA. Did you see the setup? The recent NBA game? It was people at home cheering. And there's an effect kasi pagkita mo yung mukha. So for online setups, and Atom does that with his setup, pagkita mo yung reaction ng mga online guests, there's a beautiful give and take, and it gets the connection even stronger. So how many guests were being shown at the same time, Atom? And how many flat screens did you have?
Okay, we only had one screen. Because like I said, we only had a
Konti lang
handful
yung
of
tayo.
guests.
Kasi GCQ, 10 people lang. Tama, you're right.
Yeah, so one TV. That's all you need. And I think on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, we had a total of 300 viewers, and
Nice. So 300 guests.
on Facebook,
Yes.
but on Zoom, we had I think almost 100, 80
Wow.
something. I think 80 something online guests on Zoom. So a total of 300 plus.
How was the feeling of being there and seeing these people's reactions, Atom?
You mean the people online?
Yeah, seeing the online reactions. How was it? How was the flow of that? How was the dynamic of that?
Okay. Of course, as from the point of view of experience live, we were very happy because it was mission accomplished for us.
Do you see the effect na naramdaman mo with the guest and with yourself? Like yung did you see the...
Yeah, yeah. Because you could see their reactions real time. You could, for example, while the couple was exchanging vows,
Yeah.
you could actually see people tearing up.
Oh, ang ganda no.
You could see people tearing up at home. I mean, guys, we tear up watching movies.
Tama.
What more?
If
What
it's
more?
there.
Something real.
It's real,
Something's
yeah.
happening
And
at the
people you
moment.
know.
And someone you know.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's a
So-
great one. Tama.
So, yeah. So I think this is really the future.
Yeah.
Especially given that we're limited to only a few guests right now, and even in MGCQ, we will be limited to half capacity of the venue. So I think the future really is a mix of both an actual program and an online program.
You
I
know-
think this is really where we're headed.
You know what's funny about that? I think even after this whole GCQ, MGCQ
I think
thing's
so too.
over, magsistick pa rin yan. Let's say for guests who really can't make it overseas.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is like we were speaking about this last week with Sina Alessi, Benji, CC, and Kay. There are gonna be some things that are probably gonna be reinvented with the wedding program because we're doing all these new creative ways of making parang oy pwede pala to. And for me, I think online seeing that's a new layer. Bagong layer yan eh. And you can keep that even without a pandemic. Like you can still keep that. So
Yeah,
that's
because even without the pandemic, you have guests from abroad.
Who can't make
or
it.
you have guests
Who
who,
can't
for some
make it.
reason, can't make it on that, even if they're just
Yeah.
in Manila.
Especially
They
the
can't.
mga foreign grooms.
Yeah, yeah.
Diba?
Yes,
Sometimes they
exactly.
only bring like 3 people with them, 2 people with them. Diba? The
Yes.
others, the family, the friends, they can't experience the
Yes.
wedding program here.
And how wonderful if they could, if you make it possible
Yes,
that they
yes.
could, diba? And also I think worth noting then, you're not just doing it for the couple. For couples doing it, you're not just doing it for yourselves. Na parang you're making the program much better. I think more than ever, people being connected to these sort of things since let's say we're living in isolation, most of us, diba? To be able to still experience, diba, the wedding of your loved ones. You're doing something for them as well. For me, ako, kung let's say I've been stuck at home for a long time, hindi ko nakikita yung mga loved ones ko, to be able to watch them, that's a beautiful thing to make happen. And for
It's
me,
very inclusive.
yeah, and na parang, oh my God, parang it's such a bright moment in such a challenging time. So it would also elevate your program, yes, but I think it'll also elevate the emotional states of all your guests because they were able
People.
to be a part of it. Okay, so before we close this out, I think we've had some wonderful topics, guys. Honestly, we can talk. Alam mo, guys, sa inyo, and we can talk for 2 more hours.
We
feel
can.
it. Iba
Yeah.
daldal talaga natin. But Atom, can you just enumerate? Kasi here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna show Darlene's program for the benefit of everyone. Really quick. Eto, tignan mo to, guys. Production value. Oy, tignan mo naman tayo. Tignan mo. Okay na to. Okay, so for Ato, this was Darlene's program right here. So there was intro parents, cake cutting, message of the siblings, message of the parents. There was no dance, games, which was named that tune, and trivia. And there was an STE photo, STE video with 1 song each. And this was about 1.5 hours or less, no, Darlene? Or
Yes.
less. Atom, you said you had online guests, Zoom and Facebook. Couples didn't have their first dance. Online guests had their messages. Online games where guest couples send their answers in the comments. Guests, there was a monitor. There was a monitor.
Yeah.
There was a monitor for
Showing.
guests for showing the online
Reactions.
guests' reactions. Ano pa yung mga sama? Was there a first dance? Was there a first dance? Was there? They didn't have a first dance, no?
Me or Darlene? Me.
Yeah. So
We
you,
had
yeah. Si
Atom
Atom.
did
Darlene
it.
had. My
Yes.
couple did it. Kami, what we did was this. So we started the program. I just did, which is not to. I don't mean to sell experience life too much,
No,
no.
of course not.
But
It's a good service.
what we do kasi is aside from narrating what's currently happening, we also parang give little bits of trivia about the couple, interspersed with a narration of what's going on. So that's how we started the program. So a voiceover, and then we played their prenup EVP.
Okay.
Okay, and after the prenup AVP, I just did a quick voiceover, some more narration of what's happening,
Okay.
and then we did the ceremony na.
Okay.
Now, so right after the ceremony, we went straight to cake cutting. We went straight to cake cutting and the
When you say ceremony,
ceremony.
can you just
The
kindly
exchange
yeah.
of IDs.
The
I do.
the actual wedding ceremony.
Okay. This was the online program, no?
Yeah, it was a civil wedding kasi. It was a civil wedding.
Okay.
So yeah, so they after the whole rites and wedding ceremony proper, we went straight to cake cutting,
Cake cutting.
and then we had two people online who gave messages, and yun na nga, because of technology, we were able to show real time the messages of those online guests at
Ganda.
the screen on site.
Okay, ganda.
And after that, we asked the best man, the maid of honor, and the parents to give messages on site.
Okay.
And then the couple gave their message as well.
Okay.
And then the guests had photos with the couple while we had an online game.
Mm.
So we kept it that simple. And after that, we ended the online program while the on-site guests went on with dinner.
Oh, so guests took pictures with the couple,
Yeah.
and the couple went around here, no? While having.
No, it was since it was the guests who went to them. Again, we only had a handful of
Ah, nga,
guests,
nga,
so
10 GCQ nga 10 people lang. So
So,
it was
but
very easy to manage.
it was very easy to manage. Yeah.
So the couples didn't have their first dance. Can I get this correct, Atom? So parang pinagsama all in one na. Parang
Yeah.
it's like hindi siya separate ceremony in the morning or ceremony in the afternoon, reception sa gabi. It was an all in one. It was parang 3 in 1 basically. It was
Yeah.
like ang galing naka-package siya. So voice over prenup AVP, ceremony I do's, cake cutting, two people online giving messages. Then it was best man, maid of honor, and parents message on site.
On site.
And then the couple's messages after that, right? And then
Yeah.
after that, you had the guests took pictures while you had an online game. This was this, no?
That's right.
This was all of those things. And look how different these programs were. This is more the traditional style with Darlene, and this is the new adjustment based on these new setups that we have. So it's great, honestly, guys. And both were very successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ours was traditional because they really wanted a church wedding.
So here, yung
Yes.
ceremony was in the afternoon, earlier in the day.
Yeah. Well, we had a lunch event, so it was a morning ceremony.
Morning ceremony.
And what was nice about it was she was still able to walk down the aisle,
Oo,
etc.
tama, oo.
So, yeah, because they already had a civil wedding prior. So that's really not in their horizon. What they wanted to do was have that church ceremony. And
Church.
they were able to achieve it.
And here's the thing, both these options are very viable, right? Okay, mga
Yes.
to. There's no wrong way to go about it.
Yeah,
These are-
there's no right or wrong.
There are options.
Yes.
You simply just have these options now. You can go it this way, which is the traditional way, what Darlene did, 1.5-hour program, which was a little bit shorter, my SDE, and there was a morning ceremony. Atom had everything na in one. Ceremonies, I do's, cake cutting, lahat na.
Everything.
Pwede,
Yes.
ang ganda, pwede. And I love,
Same venue.
you know what, it's so nice to see you guys making it work.
Yeah, the possibilities naman, you have several,
Kaya.
they are endless. You know,
Yeah.
endless,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not limited to
You have a
just one
lot
or
of
two options.
options.
Yes. How long
Yeah.
was this, Atom? How long was this? Would you
The
say?
whole thing was probably an hour and a half.
Ah, pareho din kay Darlene. So parang,
Yeah, because mine included the ceremony.
tapos,
Darlene's 1.5 was just the reception. Am I
ah, yeah,
right, Mark?
tama, tama. This is
Yeah.
yeah, this
Yes.
is morning ceremony, pero recept was hour and a half. Pero ito, pwede ring an hour and a half lang, pero lahat na.
Including the ceremony. Yeah.
And you kept things simple. There was no dances with the parents. And it was a
I mean,
nice,
we could have if the
but it,
couple wanted it.
but it,
But
it, it just wasn't. Hindi na kailangan. Pero
yeah.
ito lang, okay na. And kumusta yung flow, Atom? Was it, how did it feel with the flow? Like from beginning to end?
Uh, it went smoothly. I mean, it went smoothly for the online guests and also for the actual guests. Ano lang, I guess everyone, you know how we have guests na professional wedding guests.
Hmm.
Have you heard that term?
Hindi eh, sorry.
Professional wedding guests. These are
Laging guest.
guests who always attend weddings.
So sanay na.
So kumbaga, alam na nila what's going to happen next and then what's going to happen next. But in this case, everyone was just relaxed and seated and waiting
What's next?
patiently, and they were open to whatever will happen next. They were just going with the flow.
It worked. And
It worked.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see that. You know what, guys? I think we've really kind of shown a light on everything, and it's nice to know that everything was in a safe manner. You guys shared the process of how to, of course, make people feel safe. And coming from that, I think I just want to say thank you for making the time to do this, man. I mean, we went like an hour and a half, and I already foresaw this. I already foresaw this. Hindi to 1 hour lang. Mag-overtime talaga tayo.
We just started. We barely started.
This was so welcome to the opening, and that was our
Yep.
warm up. And now for the real content. No, but ang ganda.
But I think another difference, Ari, sorry,
Go,
another
please.
difference was with Atoms, I think they didn't have an SDE anymore.
Wala nang
No more.
SDE. Walang
Yes.
SDE doon. There was no SDE there, and pero you just saw this.
But everything
other
works out anyway.
It worked
Parang
out, yeah.
whatever you really want to happen will happen based on the planning.
and it
Yeah.
was all dependent on the couple.
Yes.
Ayun pala, I wanted to mention, it really helps, it was really easy for us to work with our couple because they knew what they wanted. It really helps to work with a couple who knows what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, yeah, we gave them suggestions, but at the end of it, the instructions came from them. We want this, we want that. So it was easier for us to just follow. And based on what they wanted, we created this online, this tight
Concept.
online program.
For me, I think it just honestly, and I think the benefit of this episode as well is for couples who don't know what they want, they can see the. Kasi may couples na ganon, di ba? May couples na
Yes,
ganon.
yes, yes.
Na hindi, kayo na, please tell us. That's why you're here. Please help us. That's why.
Yeah.
Di ba? It's not gonna be all the time they know. Pero for couples who don't know what they want, you've seen it executed
Options.
in two very different ways, and both were very successful. People were happy. One with a very new way with technology being included, and another one the same way but a little bit tighter. But both were extremely successful, and both couples were very happy.
Mm-hmm.
May I add one thing?
Please.
More than anything, one of the things I loved the most about that wedding and about intimate weddings in general is that you really feel the essence. You really feel the importance, the significance of the occasion. You don't get lost in all the trends. You don't get lost in what's uso, what's not.
It's not
You
as
go-
theatrical.
It's not as theatrical. We go back to really why people get married.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually asked my couple why they decided to get married, despite the restrictions, and they said, "Wala, we felt that we just wanted to get married.
Yeah.
We just wanted we want to get married to each other. We could wait, but we decided to just go for it."
And that's a great thing to highlight. And
Yeah.
honestly, guys, like these intimate things, we all agreed on this. Yung mga intimate talaga, iba talaga. Ako for me, wedding ko 15 people lang eh. Sa bahay lang.
Mhm.
Oh my god,
Intimate talaga.
best day of my life. Iba talaga yung feeling. And it's not to say that the big show, the big 300, 400, 500 weddings that usual that we do yung super like all these big celebrations are wrong. No.
No,
It's
no, of
just
course
that
not.
it's different and it's not both are not right or wrong. It's just different and you'll get unique things based on both will still be special, but there are still some very good positives kasi I think right now people are focusing on the negatives. Konti lang yung tao, konti ganito, hindi ganun ka special kasi konti lang. But oh my god, guys, the positives of the energy, like Atom said, the essence of a intimate wedding is super talagang mararamdaman. Iba yung feeling and that is not a bad thing. And thank you, Atom, for sharing that. Darlene, any closing things that you want to also maybe highlight?
I think couples should think of their weddings as full experiences also.
Mm.
So, because sometimes I think couples want to do away with so many suppliers.
Mm.
And then in the end, they don't get to enjoy because they're doing so many other things. They're multitasking.
Tama.
Or they're asking their parents to do so many other things. And then at the end of it, parang you're reviewing the photos, wala kaming portrait ni mommy.
Tama.
Kasi si mommy busy dun sa other area. Diba? So, parang I think, because some people would also ask that from the tip sheet eh. Should I still get this supplier? Do I still need the supplier, etc.? And while looking at it, I would give them scenarios so that they'd realize na, okay, it's not gonna be as easy to pull off the whole wedding if you're just going to do it on your own.
Yes.
Because it's your first time to get married. And even if you're just renewing your vows, you're still not gonna remember everything that you did,
Dar
right?
parang iba's third time to get married.
Third time na. Ayun.
Well, third
Sige,
time's the charm.
memorize mo
Third
na
time's
lang.
the special one. Talagang document mo yan. Nakuha mo na.
I remember I had a best man. Sabi ko, so alam mo na yung gagawin ng best man, right? Kasi you just got married. Sabi niya, hindi po, Miss Dar, kasi groom po ako nun. Sabi ko, piloso po ka.
Yeah, but
There, but-
Darlene, you were saying full experiences. Sorry.
Yeah, so the whole thing, parang when you're doing your wedding, just because it's smaller does not mean you don't need certain suppliers anymore.
Yes.
Kasi parang they remove so many suppliers, thinking that they can just pull it off anyway because I only have a few guests. Don't focus too much on the number of guests that you have. You do need to count them if you're going to think of the food
Yeah.
that you're going to serve, diba? Pero like you're going to do preps, wala naman dun yung guests mo eh. So why are you concerned na 12 lang yung guests ko eh? So wag na ako mag-hair and makeup artist. No connection, diba? You still have to be beautiful.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think we are suppliers for a reason. That these jobs were created for a reason. If they weren't important in a wedding, then we wouldn't have these jobs. I mean, there would be no
Yes.
makeup artists. There would be no, and the wedding industry's been around for decades. These jobs exist because they are important and they contribute in their own special, significant way to the wedding experience.
Yes.
Removing one will remove a certain type of thing that you usually get with a wedding that has been accepted for years and decades. I mean, so I do.
And even if you have very, very few, for example, in the church, you're going to have the march. What if the church manang is not there? Who's gonna make your parents march?
Yeah.
Right? Who's gonna tell them to, okay, go na?
Yeah.
Or, okay, who's gonna open your door even
Yeah.
to let you in? Diba? Or wag na isara yung door kasi walang tao
And
na mag-open.
And I think a lovely highlight of this episode, answering questions of couples, do you need to remove suppliers? It's not even about removing suppliers. I don't think that's the question. It's about how do you make the suppliers you already book work within this new scenario?
Yeah.
Isa pa yan, there are many options there. I have a lot of couples, they went with an intimate wedding now, and they plan to just have a bigger wedding during their first
Party.
anniversary.
Yeah.
So our contract with them is on hold until
Next year.
until next year, until the big one,
Same ako,
until the
marami
big wedding.
ganun. Yeah, just move it kasi. And again, there's no wrong. This episode was just really highlighted to show the options you have now.
Mm-hmm.
Stopping and moving next year because you want it the way it usually is, there's nothing wrong with that decision, and that's an absolutely valid decision. It's fine.
Yes.
But for those who just want to get married now and do it now this year within these conditions, this episode showed that it's very much possible and you can execute it in many different ways and you can maximize the suppliers you already booked. So, Ato, thank you. Darlene, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Pleasure,
It
man.
was a
Thank
great
you.
episode. I mean, the hour and a half just, oh, parang hour and a half din. Parang may trend, ah. Parang the hour and a half just flowed so well. And thank you for sharing your experiences. I'm sure people watching can definitely use this and benefit. I'll make sure that these highlights of really important notes that you guys gave will be shown and shared. So,
Yeah, I hope
Mhm.
our viewers were able to pick up a few things, no, from our discussion.
ako for me as a supplier, ang ano ko parang dati kasi parang paano natin gagawin to? And this is what I really like this is when things will start getting rolling again. Once we see our co-suppliers and couples do it and pull it off.
Moving.
Yun
Mm-hmm.
talaga eh. That has to happen safely ha na walang, and you guys are safe naman. Kumusta naman? That's something I want to ask before ending. After everything, how do you feel? Okay naman? Did you get tested? Did you Okay, so ECQ na, ECQ na, ECQ na ulit. No, but how did you guys? Serious question. How was it naman afterwards with all this social? Okay naman, everyone's healthy.
Okay. I guess it's worth sharing that, of course, psychologically, every time we go out, whether it's to go to the
Of
grocery
course.
or in this case, attended a wedding, of course, there's that psychologically we feel contaminated or
Yeah,
something.
of course. With this
So,
current scenario, naturally, yeah.
yeah. So it's just important that as soon as you get home, leave your clothes at the door and go straight to the wash. Go straight and have a shower.
Shower
Take
ka.
a shower. Shower again.
Shower agad. That's true. You have to shower agad. But you feel okay. I mean, okay ka naman, Atom. Nothing, ano
Yeah,
naman.
yeah.
Super okay. That's wonderful.
In in my case, parang siguro my confidence also stemmed from the fact that my couple, they're both doctors.
Mm.
Um, at least one of the three parents present is a doctor. And then, parang one of the sisters is also a doctor. Parang
So,
ang dami-dami naming
kasi kung okay
doctors
lang sa
doon.
kanila, then syempre, safe
Di ba
ka.
we had only a few guests, tapos parang one-fourth of the those present are medical practitioners. So
So you
parang
felt
okay,
extra safe.
if they are okay, then I am okay.
I'm
Parang
okay.
ganyan.
Tama,
Yeah.
tama. And I think that's, I think, one of the most important things that we should highlight from this episode. For the couples watching, for the suppliers watching, we have a collective responsibility to make sure that we are doing it safely. We have a
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to inform and educate ourselves on what is safe, what is risky, and what is not.
Yeah.
We
This,
need to educate ourselves.
yeah. These guidelines and protocols, they're not like traffic rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Because traffic rules and regulations here have become a suggestion.
Now,
So these protocols are not suggestions.
you cannot,
They're there to protect yourselves and the people around
to
you.
protect lives. Like, it's
Oo,
not,
Yeah.
hindi to aksidente. This is like
oo.
getting a serious
And
Yes.
disease.
and hindi to yung susunod ka kasi baka mahuli ka. No,
Yes.
sumunod ka because you have to. It's your responsibility to follow the rules.
And keep everyone safe and not risk
Yeah,
yourself and your loved ones or anyone else. Yeah, it's
exactly.
life.
And let's remember, even if you're not going to get a venue, you're going to have it kunyari in your house, still maintain and follow all the safety
Tama.
protocols.
Agree.
That is super true. And this was something CC mentioned as well. If you really want to pull off and make sure everyone's safe, you have to get a proper size venue that would allow social distancing protocol. Pag hindi
Yes.
kasi
No,
wala.
kasi what if they have a really big house, diba? They're really
Yeah.
rich. So fine, but still, you have to follow all the other
Parang
Social
rules.
bahay mo, Dar. Nakita ko sa pictures bahay mo.
Pwede mong
It's
i-book
big.
ha. Like you can book Dar for for venues ha. Like, oh, they have a space for
No.
couples wanting
Joke
Dude,
lang po yun.
they have space for what, 5 German shepherds?
No,
Six.
Six. Sorry, 6 German
Yeah.
shepherds.
No, but guys, okay, I think we've hit some really, really important things. Like I said, be safe. And honestly, they did it. Atom and Darlene did it, and they did it safely. And I think by the looks of it, I mean, everyone is healthy. and things were special, and I think that's the most important. You got to check those two very important boxes, and it was pulled off. So guys, thank you. I would love to have you guys over again in the future. Like if we have anything relevant that's worth discussing, I'll definitely share if I learn anything new, and I would love for you guys to share as well. Thank you so much for the time. Darlene has the wedding tip sheet. When is that? That's every.
Supposedly every Friday, but we'll
Yes,
see.
we'll see. It depends. Busy, yeah, I understand. But Darlene also has the wedding tip sheet if you guys want to also, learn. And as she shares her experiences and tries to guide couples as well accordingly. Atom has experienced live, which is of course a new service that was very very successful, and they're looking to keep going that. So if you want to connect with those who cannot make it, Atom has that service, so you can check out Experience Live. I'm sure Atom would be able to help you out and direct you to all the necessary details for that. If you
That's
just
right.
wanna,
Thanks for that, Eric.
of course, if you just want to directly get in touch with him. So Atom, Darlene, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
hope to bump into you guys soon within better times and within safer times. But in the meantime, thank you for being so helpful during this very challenging time. Salamat.
Thank you
Thank
also for having
you.
us, Eric.
It's a pleasure, guys. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching. Take care. Good night. Stay safe. God bless you all.
Good night.
Okay.
Are we out?
Super good, guys.
Are we out?
Yeah, I'm just doing
And
it.
we're out. That's a wrap. Nice guys. That was
Thank you.
dude. That was a very nice flow,
Yes.
and we I think very informative.